Hello and welcome to the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy, alternative DVD commentaries. I'm Justin, and sitting next to me in our Soulless Minions studio is Josh. Say hello, Josh.
Hello.
Hello. And today we're going to be watching the 1986 film SpaceCamp. And before we get going, we certainly hope that you'll watch this or listen to this commentary while watching the movie. And if so, you're going to need to set up a sync point. And for us, that is the first black frame after the ABC logo has faded to black. And our counter clock reads that as 16 seconds. So if you'd like to watch the movie while you listen to us, go ahead and cue up your DVD, get it ready, get your finger on the play button, and I'm going to give you a 1, 2, 3 countdown. It's going to go like this. 1, 2, 3, unpause. So I assume you're ready to go. I've got my remote ready. I hope you have yours. Let's do this together. 1, 2, 3, unpause.
ABC Motion Pictures presents. All right, Justin, what do we bring into this commentary for SpaceCamp today?
Well, I think we're bringing a little bit of information and a whole lot of nostalgia.
I definitely say that's the appropriate proportions.
I think it's very telling of its time that the first billed star here was Kate Capshaw.
Yeah, Kate Capshaw and Leah Thompson, because they were both...
Leah Thompson took number 2.
Leah Thompson was really hot off of Back to the Future, and Kate Capshaw had Temple of Doom.
And introducing Tate Donovan.
Yes, Tate Donovan as Kevin Donaldson, but... This is one of our favorite, films, I guess you could say.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, this is a often watched and replayed movie from our childhood,
and even today replayed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If it's on, I'll put it on.
Yeah, we just think this is an all around
music by John Williams.
Fun movie. John Williams.
Really a fantastic score.
Oh, it's a great score, and that's one of the things I will talk about as we get into this. But
yeah, there's a couple musical bits I'd like to point out that I particularly like.
Definitely. But
I didn't know until years later that he scored this movie at all. I just had no idea.
That's odd. Usually, you're pretty good at picking up musical scores.
Yeah, I don't know. This one just slipped by me. It's one of the more you listen to it as a soundtrack, you recognize a lot of John Williams' signature themes or motifs even. But just as a kid growing up, I mean, I was certainly aware of John Williams from Star Wars even then, but I didn't know. Maybe it's because as a kid I fast-forwarded through the credits and didn't pay attention.
Yeah, that might be the case. Here we go, the opening with Andy looking up at the stars.
Mm-hmm. Little Andy. She's a little country girl, I guess I want to say.
Yeah, it looks like a farm, but that's her mom in the background you see in the house, actually the voice of Kate Capshaw.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, asking her to come inside, you're going to miss it.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
He's a cute kid.
Yeah. As we're going to get into this, this movie isn't very long, so I'll...
Clock's in at like an hour 45, something like that.
Does it?
Yeah.
Well, as I did with the Explorers commentary and film, there was a novelization, and there's actually a novelization for SpaceCamp as well, which I read.
They should have had those airplanes going the other way.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Just a little nitpick. An editor's thing.
Here we go, Kate Capshaw and Tom Skerritt.
I guess it's not particularly relevant to the plot machinations of the movie, but I think we could have had a little more depth put into the two of them. They're not glossed over, but
no,
a lot of the times you see them, they're separated, and she's with one group of kids, he's with another, something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was going to get to that. Yeah, Kate Capshaw is playing the character of Andy Bergstrom, and this is Tom Skerritt, who is Zach Bergstrom. So, Commander Zach Bergstrom. They're married, but as I was mentioning about the novelization, and I wanted to do the same with this as I did with the Explorers, and
how many times must I say I love you?
Here we go, Tate Donovan, Kevin Donaldson coming up to Space Camp. That's actually a song by Eric Clapton, yeah, if I remember.
It's a catchy song.
Oh, sure. But I was hoping the novelization would provide me with more insight into the, behind the scenes, so to speak, and the writing of the story that Explorers did. But unfortunately, that wasn't really the case with the novelization of Space Camp.
This one turned out to be more of a script page kind of.
Yeah, it was very thin, and if I'm gonna read the front here. A novelization by Joe Claro, based on the screenplay by W.W. Wickett and Casey T. Mitchell, and story by Patrick Bailey and Larry B. Williams. So it was based, as I could tell by reading it, on probably an earlier draft of the screenplay. The screenplay was pretty close to what the film turned out to be. But let me read the back here of the book. Space Camp! Exclamation point. Every summer, people flock there from across the country for official astronaut training on real NASA equipment and to fulfill a dream. This summer, 5 kids are heading for Space Camp. Cool Kevin, no-nonsense Catherine, punk rocker Tish, clumsy Rudy, and a 12-year-old genius named Max. 5 individuals, each as different as night and day. Can their instructor, Andy, teach them to work together as a team? And will Space Camp prepare them for all the adventure of a lifetime? Well, yeah, so it was pretty much kind of a script to screen. It was a very quick read. I read it in about 2 seconds flat. And there was some minute differences and a few things I'll touch upon that maybe are worth a note. I mean, you did mention that you wished the relationship between Kate Capshaw and Tom Skerritt would have been a little more fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little bit in the book. They have like a scene or two together outside of the rest of the cast, where they get to sit down and air their grievances, so to speak. And she's a little taken aback by, I have to do this space camp thing, and I didn't get selected to be on the space shuttle.
Right.
Well, here's our favorite character, one Hideo Takamine.
Yeah.
And would you like to know if he's in the book?
I'm guessing he's not.
Hideo Takamine is in the book.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, he deserves to be. He's a valid
plot
point.
Because you know what? If Hideo Takamine wasn't, I was going to abandon the book altogether.
Well, this is a crucial bit to establishing who Kevin is.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite important that we have Hideo Takamine.
I found it interesting that they opened up the screenplay, this movie with the character of young Andy looking up the sky, and the original story was pretty much the same, the same kind of opening, but I found it interesting because this movie is an ensemble, and they're opening up with the character of Andy. And you think she's going to be the star, but, like the main star, you know what I mean? Yeah. But this is an ensemble piece, and the movie doesn't really revolve around her, She's just part of the ensemble, at least to me. So to open it up like that, I always thought was a little strange. It's a good opening, but it actually makes more sense when you read what the original ending was. As is actually shown in the book, which was, probably on an earlier draft of the screenplay, which is actually, how this movie ends. It's the shuttle landing at Edwards Air Force Base. As the shuttle does that, there's an epilogue where we have a young child who's looking up at the sky, just as young Andy was, looking up at the sky and sees the light streak across the sky, the light of the the space shuttle
of Atlantis coming in.
And he says pretty much the same things. Andy says, "I'm going up." I am.
Right.
And it winked at me, something like that.
I'm glad that's not in the movie. I mean, it's kind of like it's a neat idea, but it sounds a little cheesy.
It was, honestly, so I'm kind of glad.
A little too much.
I'm kind of glad they didn't keep it in there. But
yeah.
I read an article that they removed that in response to the Challenger accident, which I have no idea what that has to do with Challenger.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm not really sure. Like the ending, it was taken out just because in response to the Challenger incident, and I'm not really sure what that effect that would have on. I mean, this whole movie was very much affected by Challenger. So the fact that this movie even existed at all, I mean, why not just have that in there?
Right.
I have no idea, but apparently that's why it was left out. But we're talking over the...
well, I was just letting you go.
I'm sorry. So. Oh, yeah, so we're being introduced. This is a classic scene in kind of a disaster film. We're being introduced to all the main players here.
Oh, sure, yeah. They get their quick intro. You get their very cliche sort of
we're getting
caricatures. And
yeah, we have Catherine Farily here, played by Leah Thompson. Kevin Donaldson. They're going to be romantically involved. And
of course.
Also, we saw Tish Ambrose, played by Kelly Preston. Rudy Tyler, played by Larry B. Scott. Max, played by Joaquin.
Leaf.
Or Leaf.
At this point.
Who is billed as Leaf, Phoenix. And that's our main crew. And, honestly, we were talking about the score, the great score that John Williams brought.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at, the book, and like imagining what the screenplay must have looked like. This movie, this is a case where the movie is so much better than the words on the page. The words on the page, there was nothing there. I didn't get a sense of any characters, no sense of really drama or tension. And this movie, it's the actors, and what they brought to their characters and the score by John Williams that makes this movie. Without it, this movie was very thin, to be completely frank,
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that it wasn't interesting to read or that the story wasn't good, but it was, obviously written with the notion of, this is a disaster film for the younger crowd.
Right.
So it wasn't incredibly detailed, but if you looked at that original story, you would see that, wow, these actors in the music really brought this thing to life. Here we have the introduction of Jinx, the world's only $27 million handyman.
That they leave casually just sitting around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I certainly, although I didn't read the book, I certainly see the effect that these actors did bring to the movie, and even though obviously there's certain cliches about them, they're endearing. I mean, Larry B. Scott is the 80s. I mean, what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, most people would think, Revenge of the Nerds, but I always think of Iron Eagle.
Iron Eagle, sure. But each one of these actors has done well to some degree or another. Some more than others, but they're all good actors. So they all brought something, even to somewhat cliched characters. And yeah, I can see how in lesser hands, while it would still be a good movie, it wouldn't be quite the great thing that we have held on to over the years.
I think it's really unfortunate that this movie wasn't picked up by audiences during its release because of Challenger.
Mm-hmm.
And Because I think it's a good movie. You know, it's a fun adventure movie for kids. You know, and it's really unfortunate that you know, it failed at the box office. But I think it holds up. What do you think, Justin?
Oh, I think it absolutely holds up. One of the I don't know if you can call this you wouldn't call this a science fiction movie, would you?
No, I mean this is
more of
place in the real world.
Action adventure, you want to say? You know, okay, let me give an example. Take the movie Daryl, which was made somewhat around this time frame, right? It takes place in the, you know, quote unquote real world. It just introduces this fantastical element to it. Now, that element over time becomes more and more dated, and even though it's a perfectly enjoyable movie, it sort of loses some of its believability because of the science that they try and apply to it. This movie, however, is obviously taking place in the real world, but it's using the real technology of the time. So although you can certainly apply the date to it because of the music or hairstyles or whatever, the technology and whatnot just feels like, well, this is the technology of the time. It doesn't feel dated in the same way. So in that sense, it's, I don't want to say timeless, but it's very accessible.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the shuttle technology didn't change all that much over the years. I mean, the shuttle looked like the shuttle, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the shuttle still looks the same way.
And yeah, until it was, I think, recently retired. I don't think it's...
Yeah, I think it just got retired, actually.
Yeah. But, you know, one of the characters I thought that was really brought to life was the character of Tish here, played by Kelly Preston. There really wasn't a whole lot on the page with her character, and I felt that Kelly Preston, you know, really gave her a personality, you know. I thought she did a good job, made her interesting.
Mm-hmm. See, now we get here kind of an early, you know, buddy companionship going on between Rudy and Kevin. And actually, now that I think about it, much like the Catherine and Tish relationship, it's kind of just touched on here in the beginning, and then it's kind of pushed aside, which is kind of a shame, because even in that brief 5-minute, you know, discussion that Catherine and Tish had, you actually start to feel they're connecting. And especially with these guys too, you really get a sense of Rudy. You kind of sense a little bit of hidden pain in him, and that he's really happy here and he likes this world. He's just afraid he's going to fail. And Kevin is, he's this, going into this, he's the slacker with a heart of gold kind of a thing. But I feel like these guys are also really connecting. But yet, as the movie starts to kind of trail on, you don't really come back to these two separate relationships.
Unfortunately, yeah. These are good kind of bonding moments. And I like this moment between, Rudy and Kevin, and
mm-hmm.
especially Rudy. He is given a chance to really kind of let out his secret pain, so to speak.
Yeah,
and I like it.
I think he did it well.
Yeah, it's also kind of setting up what is a common occurrence in most disaster films with an ensemble cast. The
unlikely hero.
Yeah, that too. But every character is flawed in some way, and every character will have a moment to shine.
Yeah, sure.
And that moment is kind of setting up the doubt that exists in Rudy's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna come back later on. Later on in the film, in the third act, but we'll get to that.
These guys are just a bunch of assholes. I mean, really.
Yeah, the original story has their names. He actually does what he's told. Yeah.
Hey, Jenks, come over here. Yeah. Now I'm actually finding myself backstepping a little bit here. I talked about the whole technology at the time being real. Of course, Jinx is the exception to that.
Yeah.
And much like Daryl, the more time goes by, the more unbelievable as we know technology to be of that time, or even presently, how unbelievable the Jinx character actually is, and that element seems almost science fiction-y. Even at that time, it must have.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Not that it's not a perfectly enjoyable element in the movie. It just it does date it.
One thing they do address in the novelization is, you kind of wonder why is this robot kind of, if he's so expensive, why is he kind of allowed to hang out, just do whatever he wants, and Max kind of keeps him in his room. They address it a little bit, like they actually show one of the NASA engineers coming into the room saying, "Okay, where is the robot, Max? I know you have him in here." And Rudy and Kevin actually cover for Max, because Max has him hidden in his trunk.
Mm-hmm.
So, they do touch on it a little bit, like, okay, he wouldn't be allowed to roam free, and, this kid wouldn't be allowed to keep him like he's his own pet,
right.
So that was kind of nice that was in there.
Yeah, but it sounds very glossed over.
Yeah. What do you think of Max's voice? Do you think it's a little too computerish, a little too robotic?
Well, yes, it's that's hard to say. I mean, I'm so used to it, I don't even think about it. Sure, it's a little hokey, but in a way, it actually fits his look and his. Well, I guess his voice is his persona. It doesn't stand out to me in a negative way. Now that you've said it, it's gonna be like glaring in my ear. But
well, some people might find it a bit sorry to
shrill.
Say it. Yeah, shrill. That's a good word.
Yeah, I can see that. I never thought of it that way, but I could see how some might think of it that way.
Yeah, well, I was mentioning about the Challenger incident, which we haven't really touched upon yet, but this movie, the making of and release, was heavily affected by that incident, and it was delayed a couple of times because of the Challenger accident. But it was actually the film was in the process of the final cut, if I remember the article I read correctly, when the director received word of the accident, and of course, he was completely crushed and knew that was going to affect his film, which he had, stated very strongly, that I've spent years of my life on this film, and it's gotten into me. It's become a part of my life, and so the film was pushed back and then pushed back again, and then finally released in 1986 to very little fanfare. And a lot of people just, couldn't separate it from the real life disaster, because what happens in this film, which is called Thermal Curtain Failure, involves the solid rocket boosters, and it was one of the solid rocket boosters which caused the Challenger to disintegrate, explode during launch. So the accident in the film mirrored the accident in real life a little too close for some people. It was heavily noted in reviews at the time. So it's really sad, and it was so heavy on the nation's minds, because space travel had become so routine at that time. And I remember honestly being a kid and having that feeling too,
Really?
Yeah, that space travel had become routine. I didn't think about it as...
I can't say that's a thought I consciously had at all.
Well, I didn't think about it as dangerous, it did feel routine. So when Challenger happened, I remember it being a big thing.
Oh, well, I certainly remember that.
There is a little moment here, which I thought was good that they excised from the script. You see here...
Well, let's, for those not watching the movie, what scene are we in here?
Right now we're with Catherine, as she is on the multi-access trainer.
Yeah.
And she is not doing well. But in the original story, this scene pretty much plays out as it is right now. But at the end, she says, give me another chance. You're not giving me a chance. And Kevin comes up to her, talks to her, and she's going to try again. But the scene leaves here in the movie. The scene transitions to another scene. You don't see her try again, so you don't know if she was able to master this technique or not. You just you leave with the advice that Kevin gave her. You're just trying too hard. If you just ease up a bit, you'd be okay. That's how the scene pretty much ends. In the original scripts, she you read that she does try it and she gets through it. Okay, she conquers the multi-access trainer, which kind of deflates the ending, because in the end, as you recall,
it was all about her doing
they
that.
come back to this moment. Kevin says, the trainer, remember the trainer. And it comes back to that, and that's her arc. This is her character moment when she gets to shine, just as every character has their own moment to shine. Mm-hmm. So if she had already overcome it, then there'd be less tension. See what I mean?
Oh, I agree completely. I'm glad they didn't show that.
Yeah, so I'm just glad they took it out.
Well, who knows if it was even filmed?
I doubt it. It was probably taken out before they even reached the final stages of the script.
Yeah, I mean that seems something like a known director, an accomplished director even would just go, this is ridiculous. Why even shoot this? We're not going to use this.
I like the two of these actors together.
Yeah, I mean they're okay. I don't think their chemistry leaps off the screen, but I do think they got a little something. She's a cold fish, so it's hard to feel the chemistry.
Yeah, she's much colder in the earlier story, and he comes on to her much a little more strongly. I mean, like I said, there's differences. There's minute things, little scenes that take place here and there that aren't in the movie, where he's kind of hitting on her and she's kind of like, oh, piss off, very strongly. She's not as timid as she is here. I mean, she's not really taking him up on his offers right from the get-go, but
right.
She's still in the movie a little timid. She's not very confident in herself in that regard. Mm-hmm. In the original story, not so much. She's just kind of like more cold fish, like you said.
Wrong answer.
Yeah.
Now, there's a couple of guys here that I recognize. The blonde guy behind Kevin, I know him from something.
That was Spotsman. Well, we know him.
Same with the other guy to the left.
Well, the guy over Kevin's shoulder.
Yeah.
The guy he just passed.
That's Some Kind of Wonderful.
Yeah.
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 My mom was a plumber.
I know. My mom's a plumber. Just, what did she say? Just sit here and act like you like me. Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be absolutely no problem. Well, I know him from that, and also from an episode of Amazing Stories with that same actress, Mary Stuart Masterson. Is that her?
Well, yeah, that's her. Oh, from yes, okay.
But here we go. This scene here, which actually doesn't make any sense. I don't understand, because SpaceCamp is located in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama.
Is it? I actually didn't know that.
It is, unless they have another space camp near the launch pad in Cape Canaveral that I don't know about.
I honestly had no idea where SpaceCamp was physically located.
Well,
I just assumed because of the shuttle. Yeah, it was right there.
Well, in real life, that's where it is, unless there's another space camp somewhere that I don't know about. I mean, even in the credits, it says filmed on location in Huntsville, Alabama. But
well, I guess they just took for granted that people
took
wouldn't
some liberties.
Yeah.
Well, they took some liberties in the original story too, because in that original story, they have this little date, yes, but it's not. They don't go see the shuttle. They go to the beach. You know,
that would make more sense.
To go to the beach?
Well, just given that we know the shuttle is not in Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh, yeah. But even in Alabama, Alabama doesn't have a beach.
I wouldn't know. How do you know?
Alabama's landlocked, as far as I know.
Oh, is it? I wasn't even thinking about that.
If I'm thinking of my geography right. Yeah.
Maybe they're next to a big lake?
I guess.
And they were just calling it the beach?
You would say the lake. Anyway.
Yeah, I guess you would. I mean, the beach is,
well, anyway,
coast.
Even though they're taking the liberties here of being in Cape Canaveral and Florida and having space camp there, makes more sense, to have them visit the shuttle,
Oh, sure.
Look out on that. Yeah, he's very much the reluctant hero. So we're getting inside his mind a little bit. She's cracking him open, he's...
Oh, she's got him figured out.
Oh, he's like, what's so important? We're all going to get nuked anyway. That's just an excuse for people who are afraid to try. Yeah. Yeah, she's got him figured out. But she likes him, you can tell.
Oh, of course she does.
It's kind of
it's like you said, she, as much as she knows and as skilled as she is, she lacks confidence in herself. Anything she projects is kind of a false confidence, which he actually kind of sees right through too.
Mm-hmm. This scene here, I never. I find it odd that it's like they're in prison. These two.
These two who?
These two actors. Where are they? It's like it's like they escaped from prison. They're going all ape shit.
Well, of course they're going ape shit. These are underage kids.
Like Kevin says, it's just space camp.
Yeah, but they can't be responsible for losing two kids. Who knows where they went?
Well, sure. I just think their acting is a little over the top.
Busted. Here come the lights. Thought you had it covered. Thought I did.
I kind of like this little tender moment we have between the character of Andy and Catherine. You do wonder why she has been so hard on her.
I actually would have liked to have heard the conversation between Kevin and Zach.
Really?
Well, Zach had to rip him a new one. I'd be kind of curious how that went down.
Yeah, I don't think the scene of the novelization exists for either of them. I think it just kind of passes over to.
Mm-hmm. I mean, granted, yes, the meat is here, but it would have just kind of been because he was in the wrong too, and he needs to get his ass handed to him. And Zach wouldn't be stupid; he'd know it was his idea.
Yeah, but still, I like this scene. I mean, I don't know. How far do you think that scene could have really gone?
Oh, it would have been, 2 minutes, but I enjoy Tom Skerritt, and even the way that he talks to Kevin in the opening scene when they meet. He's firm, yet kind of playful, but, you'll do what he says. Tom Skerritt just has that way about him, so I would have just liked to see that scene for that sort of selfish purpose, I guess.
Well, I just looked at a map of the U.S. and I was wrong. Alabama is not completely landlocked.
Okay.
Part of its southern tip does touch the ocean, but a very small piece.
Well, then. But it's still nowhere near where the shuttle is actually parked.
Well, Alabama sits above Florida, but still.
It's a stretch.
Mm-hmm.
Not a quick drive for these guys, to just hop in the Jeep and go.
No.
Now, I seem to recall at some point talking to you about this scene, probably years ago, of how it's uncomfortable.
It is. I think he comes off. I thought that maybe in the book that maybe this scene would be a little lighter, but it's still kind of the same. And I think it's the anger and tone in his voice and the facial reactions on Max are just You know, he looks. Look at that.
Yeah, he's hurt.
And it's pretty much the same way. I'm like, I agree with you. I always felt it was a little too harsh.
But it was harsh, and
it's gonna.
One of the subtle ways that it remains harsh is that no one else said anything.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and it's really just the two of them, even though they're in this room full of people. And you know, Kevin is kind of merciless. He not only is he just being, you know, anger driven, but
he's too merciless. It's out of character.
He's really hitting Max personally. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, why he? I mean, you can understand him being upset, but still,
upset, yes.
Taking it out on Max like that was
yeah.
It never really felt right to me, and you did need something to bring Max to this point, because this is going to set up.
Sure.
Here we go, Jinx in the background. This is going to set up the second half of the film where they're launched into space.
It would have been nice, you know, now that we're talking about it, to maybe just at some point in the movie have a quick scene where Kevin apologizes to him.
Well, he sort of does a little in a roundabout way. Later, when they're on the bus trip to the launch pad, he sits next to him, and that's kind of his way of saying, you know what, I'm sorry.
Well, when that comes up, I'm gonna have to take a really good look at that.
Well, you know, this also sets up, you know, the one of the things that I like you mentioned. It's sad that the friendship between Kevin and Rudy is kind of dropped. But we have this new kind of friendship between Kevin and Max, you know, where it's kind of like a big brother, little brother kind of a thing.
They do obviously develop that. I mean, when they get up in the shuttle, he's teaching him how to go pee on the thing.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
yes.
I like that a lot. They kind of had a nice little chemistry there.
Yeah, I mean, we know they got over it. It just would have been nice to see Kevin acknowledge it, you know, because he was such an asshole.
Well, like I said, there's that roundabout scene, but
and I'll have to really watch for that.
Okay, we're set.
Here we do have a good musical cue from
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams, yes. Again, you know, whenever you start showing essentially sentient computers, you're really in danger of whatever the opposite of future-proofing your movie is.
You're definitely at risk of dating it.
Yeah. I mean, I can certainly see how it makes the scene go faster, because you got the computer and Jinx verbally talking, and it just makes everything go quicker. But you know, it just kind of robs you of a certain realism. Not anything that is detrimental to the film, mind you, but
yeah. In the original story, there's actually a little bit more that happens. In the camp here, we're in the, you know, fake mock-up shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually a couple of sequences where they're actually in the underwater tank, like how the astronauts will practice their maneuvers or repairs underwater in spacesuits. There was a couple of scenes that were taken out of the original scripts that they were in that tank. I thought that was interesting that they had that in there. And I thought, is this scene going to take place underwater, or is this still going to be in the mock-up? But no, this mock-up scene was still there.
Mm-hmm. I enjoy the stuff going on in the background with Trish and Rudy.
Yeah, that's good.
They have kind of a fun back and forth.
Yeah, they do. Like,
you know, she's just playing.
Like I said, it's the actors, you know. Like, it wasn't,
definitely.
It wasn't on the page, not at all. You know, I come from the viewpoint of having it's one right next to the red. I come from the viewpoint of having seen this movie so many times, so it was really hard not to picture it in my head, but it's just a really credit to the actors to really how much they can bring to a movie. And also, like I said, the music. Without John Williams, I don't know what
I still think it would have been a good movie, but
I still think
it certainly brings a...
Yeah, definitely, but definitely not as good.
You know, I gotta say, Kate Capshaw looking pretty good there.
Yeah, I like her look in this movie.
Yeah,
as opposed to Temple of Doom.
Yeah, I mean, she's okay in Temple of Doom, but the brown hair suits her, and she's looking smoking. These guys. These are like, you could imagine Kevin would be buddies with these guys, and they're just effing with him.
Yeah, if they ended up on the same team.
Yeah.
Yeah, this bit that's coming up that we like so much about landing in the red zone, not in the original story. I kind of wonder if they kind of improv this on the set.
Yeah, it could have.
Because, they saw, the screens are red, let's say red zone. Oh my God, no survivors. I think he pulled it off well.
I really like Larry B. Scott. Where on earth did he go?
Who's Larry? Oh, you mean Rudy?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I haven't seen that man in ages. And is she wearing a bra or not?
I would say no. Doesn't look like it.
Impressive. Most impressive. Oh, yeah. That's no bra. That is confidence. Okay. See, look at that. Ooh, God, she looks good.
Yes, she does, yeah.
Damn. Way to go, Mr. Spielberg.
Well, he's still acting, according to the IMDb.
Take down. Larry B. Scott?
Yeah.
Certainly nothing big.
No, but he has credits all the way up to 2011, so.
I'll have to look for him. That's a really cool simulator.
Yeah, and it's the real one, obviously, as this was filmed.
It would have to be, yeah.
In Huntsville, Alabama, so. And this movie is kind of split in half, Do you get that feeling? Like half is at the camp, half is in space?
Oh, absolutely. I remember growing up, and even to this day when I rewatch it, once they achieve orbit, there's this piece of music and the visual of the shuttle orbiting Earth and kind of coming at camera, and the music has this almost send-off quality to it, and it's like there's the end of the first half of the movie. Then we get into the disaster.
Oh yeah, I agree with you entirely.
And every time I watch it, I feel like the credits are about to roll, because it's like you just assume they'll get down.
Oh yeah, sure.
It's a trip. I mean, it's funny you say that, because that's when that moment comes, I'll point it out. It's great music, but it feels like the movie's over, musically speaking.
A little shadow there, Daedalus. See the poster?
Oh yeah.
But we were just introduced to the FRF, the flight readiness firing.
What's a FERF?
What's a FERF? Yeah. Which is going to be the way they get up into space. But like I said, the movie's kind of split in half, And the screenplay, the original story, I can assume, wasn't like that so much. It was more of like 2/3 space camp, 1/3 space. So a little more time in space camp than I would have wanted. It just seemed like that was where most of their story was taking place, as opposed to in space. Here we go. We're being introduced to thermal curtain failure. And you can imagine, seeing this in 1986 and not thinking of Challenger would have been difficult,
Sure.
I mean, it just breaks my heart every single time whenever I see that clip of Challenger taking off and blowing up, and hearing the words of Ronald Reagan. He quoted a famous poem or something or other. Something like, we watched them as they left our earthly bonds to touch the face of God.
Well, here's your moment.
Here's the moment. See, this is where he's saying I'm sorry without actually saying it.
All right. I still think he should have said something, though.
I kind of like that they didn't. They took a roundabout approach, not the direct one.
Or maybe it should have been sooner.
That's good. They're giving me a little moment for Andy because this is her. Well, she wants to. She wants to go.
This is a big deal for her. I mean, this is no small thing.
Yeah, in the screenplay, where actually when they enter into
this is a good shot.
Oh yeah, when they enter into this scene here, when they're getting into the shuttle. They're actually stated in the movie as being the lucky ones as the team selected to experience the FRF. In the novelization, it was 2 teams. I think it was this team and the green team. So the green team had already tested it. NASA had just done a test with the green team, firing the main engine of the shuttle, and they were just exiting, and they were all like on cloud 9 and. The blue team was coming up the elevator and they were looking at them and they were jealous, and
right.
I thought that was kind of a way.
It's kind of cool.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was kind of a way of easing us into it, so we felt safe about the situation.
Right.
Kind of letting our guard down. So we felt, okay, they're okay, so they'll be okay too. It was
right. I get it.
Kind of a nice touch. I guess for brevity, I could see why they would take it out.
Oh, sure. I mean, the fact is anyone going into this movie has seen the trailer. They're going into space. So to have that scene, like you're saying, for the purpose of kind of giving you the false sense of security just isn't really necessary. Now, do you happen to... I can hear you pecking away at the computer, so I'm assuming you're on IMDb. Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about this shuttle set? Is this accurate? To the actual size and dimensions of the real shuttle? I mean, it certainly looks like it.
I mean, as I said, this must be at SpaceCamp.
Well, but this stuff. We saw the difference between the simulator and this. This is clearly not the simulator.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is a mock-up or if they're in a real shuttle.
Yeah, I'm looking.
For at least some of it.
It doesn't say. It just says the interior of the Space Shuttle Atlantis was filmed in the Atlantis simulator at the real space camp. That's all it says.
Well then I wonder if this is the actual simulator, and what we saw in the film as the simulator was a mock-up. Was a set to a drastically reduced set to make this look even more real.
Yeah, more grand. Well, since I have it up to the IMDb, I'm gonna read one of the earlier drafts. Apparently, as it says here on the IMDb. In earlier drafts of the storyline, a Russian shuttle is sent up to rescue the American kids. At the end of the film, it was to be revealed that Russian kids had rescued the American kids, so imagine that.
Lame.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad they didn't keep it that way. And I like this moment here coming up where we're going to see a very excited Tate Donovan, and then we're going to pan over. We're going to see Catherine, who's been this, obsessed one. She really wants to go up,
Mm-hmm.
She wants to be a shuttle commander. She's made that clear. This is her obsession, her passion. And, Kevin's just enjoying the ride. You pan over to her, and you see her trying to enjoy it, but she just, right here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. She's trying to, but she looks a little scared.
She's scared.
She looks a little scared. And that's kind of a hint into, what comes later in the story in regard to her personality. There's some good little moment, between her and Kevin that comes up that is in this movie, but not in the novelization. But we'll get that. We'll get there when we get there. Here we go. We have overheat on Booster B. So we're going to get into the thermal current failure. I like the sound of this scene. Not only just the music, but the way it was mixed. I like it.
Oh yeah, it's quite well done.
So I guess there's a microphone on there on the joystick.
Apparently.
She talks into it. I always thought that was a little strange.
Well, she's probably got the mic just like everyone else right near her mouth, but she needed to push that button to activate it. It just seemed like she was talking into it.
Maybe so.
It's Terry O'Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's...
That's good. That's good.
It's cool that Kevin ends up being the one that's stuck in the seat, and he's probably the least qualified to be there.
But, definitely. Well, that comes up later.
Oh yeah, of course she kicks him out the first chance she gets.
Here's one of those musical cues.
Oh yeah, great piece.
Oh yeah, and this is good. We're gonna come up to a great moment here. Hold on, here it comes. Shuttle rises. John Williams builds. Bird goes by. It's coming up. Maybe yes. Okay, here it comes. Go, baby, go. Yes. I love this. This is good. My God. We have liftoff and we have the cue by Williams as we look at these kids looking up at this shot right there. Like,
oh, yeah.
Like, holy shit, what just happened?
Yeah, this is good stuff. I mean, that's good filmmaking right there. It all works. It all comes together.
And as I said, it's the music. You know, the music and the actors, because that tension just wasn't on the page.
Well, you know, I mean, John Williams is John Williams. He's awesome. I'd like to think another composer still could have made that moment what it is, but of course Williams is John Williams.
I mean, you do think that he's involved because of Spielberg and Spielberg being, you know, married to Kate Capshaw.
He could have just had a hole in his schedule, and this is what got in.
I don't know. That's the way I always kind of saw it. Like, you know, well, I always kind of wondered, like, why would John Williams be involved with this? And then I thought, oh, well, Kate Capshaw to Spielberg to John Williams. That's kind of the way I always thought of it.
Maybe. But, you know, he's a working professional. Someone came to him with a script he thought would be fun to score, a right paycheck, and you got John Williams.
What do we most know Terry O'Quinn from?
The Cutting Edge.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, he's a character actor. He's in so many things, but The Cutting Edge is definitely one that I know him from.
I also remember him from an episode of TNG called Pegasus.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Good episode.
Admiral Pressman.
Mm-hmm.
Panel C3.
On your right side. But,
hit it.
I know, it's hard not to quote.
I know.
We know this movie too well.
We don't even have subtitles and we know what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
This scene also does it was done very well. You really feel the tension. You really feel the fright in a lot of the kids, even the adults that are watching this unfold. This is a story that's about to unfold.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you. I mean, you know more than I do about the pushing back of the release date, and do you happen to know when this was actually filmed?
I didn't really see much on that, but just that it was scheduled to be released in early '86. At least maybe that was its second release date. But the 28th of January was when Challenger went up and exploded. So I'm not sure. It's probably filmed in 85, at least middle, early 85, middle of 85.
They're really milking this scene.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that, this, on the page, this scene takes place in on one page, mm-hmm. And there's no, like I said, it's just, you don't feel anything. There's no tension. It's just one page. It says, thermal current failure. And, they watch the shuttle go up and then they're like, oh, they reached orbit. And that's kind of it. There's just not a whole lot there, I was kind of hoping for a bit more. I didn't touch a thing, Andy. Honest. That's something they kept from the original story. Him kind of saying, I didn't touch it. There's only one really bad kind of shot coming up of the artificial gravity, but other than that, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, when Catherine flips.
Yeah, but other than that, it looks, fine throughout the rest of the movie.
Oh, yeah, that is one thing, as I've rewatched this movie over the years, that I thought held up quite well.
Yeah. It kind of makes me wonder how they did this. I mean, were they on wires all the time, I guess?
Well, like this part with Catherine right here, she didn't have... Someone's probably just holding her. She's on a bar or something. She doesn't...
Right here. Wires. Here we go.
Yeah, that.
That shot just doesn't... They should have just taken that out. It didn't work. But everything else works fine in regard to the gravity. But she still looks good today.
Leah Thompson?
Well, yeah, sure. But I was referring to...
Kate?
Kelly Preston.
Oh, Kelly Preston looks smoking.
Oh yeah, but even today, she's still
that's what I'm talking about today. She still looks phenomenal.
Yeah, I know, but she's just one of those lucky people that ages well.
Oh yeah.
Like Michael J. Fox.
See, how is this a simulator?
I don't know.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my mind around that. That NASA actually built a simulator that is this
detailed,
seemingly real. Yeah, I mean, why would you do that for a simulator?
Well,
the simulator we see in the movie seems like a simulator.
Yeah, this has to be the same simulator that was in. Do you remember the movie Space Cowboys?
Sure.
They were in a simulator, and I think it's the same one.
You think it's this physical set?
Probably.
I suppose it could be. I guess it is just that detailed. I guess if you're going to train people to go in space, you better deck that shit out. This is the shot I'm talking about.
Oh, the music? Yeah.
Where the music's building and it just seems like finale music. Like the credits are about to roll. So here we are at 56 minutes and see, look, it's just a long shot.
And yeah, we get that wink from the
Yeah. And then here we are in the second half of the movie now. Now the fun's over.
Oh, the second half actually, to me, the second half begins with the exterior shot of the buses bringing them to the shuttle. That's where the second half begins in my mind. That's the way I always kind of divided the movie.
For me, I can see how it would. For me, it's just that musical cue.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the thick of things. Into the second half of the story where most of the drama takes place. But do you think what do you think this movie would have been, say there wasn't an adult present?
Ridiculous.
You think so, huh?
Yeah. Andy's presence was needed.
Oh yeah, I was just curious if what your thoughts would be if, say, that character, they launched all those teenagers into space without any, adults.
It would have been probably as bad and hokey and unbelievable as if Russian kids had rescued them.
Yeah, that is kind of I can see why that would have been like an initial story idea, but considering the time this movie was made, the Cold War and Russian tensions and I can see why they would put that in there. This is interesting. Here he actually says something that wasn't in the screenplay. He says they won't be alive, in 12 hours or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they, that's kind of a strong thing to say, and they leave the scene on that. Well, they won't be alive in 12 hours. And you're like, what? What does that mean? He doesn't say it like that. He says it in a very kind of lighter way. He doesn't say anything about them not being alive, just something about their oxygen level or, time remaining. And that's the way the scene leaves it. And a lot less tension than just in those words where he simply says, well, we have to find them in an earlier window because they won't be alive.
Right.
So obviously it worked better this way than previous. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think about Daedalus? I mean, Daedalus doesn't exist either, as Jinx doesn't.
Well, what do you mean? I mean,
as
depicted in the movie, it's really just the framework of a space station.
Yeah, it's under construction, as Catherine refers to it. But space station, this is 1985, 1986, so that's still kind of a wild idea. I mean, I think Mir was already up, still. They don't mention Mir.
Well, I don't think it's far-fetched or anything. I mean, all you see, it's clearly just, little bits of frame, really.
Oh, yeah, but just the idea of one, I thought maybe that would have seemed kind of far-fetched even then. I mean, before the International Space Station was built, I mean, the phrase space station still kind of sounded futuresque,
Well, it still does.
Yeah, I suppose. But now we're used to it because we have a permanent one in orbit,
Yeah, well, I think it's all in the terminology. Like you said, you say space station, and you expect to see something out of Star Trek, not this, cobbled together looking kind of mess. You expect to see something pretty.
Yeah, I wish space stations didn't look like, beer cans strung together.
Yeah, that's basically how they look like.
Unfortunately,
it ain't that impressive.
Yeah, you want them to look like they do in 2001, but...
Yeah, that's a space station.
Yeah. Yeah, there's reasons why,
of course.
They look the way they do, but still, it doesn't, can't you make it look...
Someday they'll look like that.
Well, yeah, you just, can't you make it look cool, Something like that.
Spend a couple $1 trillion more, and people will really want to go there.
Yeah. Well, we just had that kind of a character moment there with Kevin where he's taken out.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's something we didn't address, that happened up front. Catherine was pulling really hard to be shuttle commander, and Andy could see that Kevin was, his personality, him being kind of a flake and kind of, what's the word, kind of being, I don't care kind of attitude that he needed to be shuttle commander because he needed an attitude adjustment. She could see that. And, he's been screwing around, so he doesn't know his stuff. So he was taken out of the seat right there. And she gave it to Catherine. And it's going to come back, where Kevin actually does take on the part of a shuttle commander. It's a part of his character arc, when he has to make a decision that Catherine can't make because she freezes up. And it's good. I think it's good. It's a good character arc for him and a good moment, too. And this is good. Like I said, they're building up that relationship, that kind of big brother, little brother thing. I like.
Yeah, this is a cute little funny moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, see, there's the space station. Looks a little bit...
it looks a little... I don't remember that shot specifically. It is quite a bit bigger.
I forgot about it, too.
All I seem to remember is the bit where, Andy's crawling into it, and it just seems so small there.
Mm-hmm. I can just hear the music in my head. It's hard not to think of it. So,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, because one of the things, we like to do a lot is to take the audio from a movie and, put it on our iPod or wherever, and we'll listen to the audio. And this is one of our favorites. And so we're very familiar with not just the visuals from the movie, but the audio. And, and so the musical cues we're very familiar with. Here we go.
They never would have let her on that shuttle with that candy bar.
Well, they probably had it on there.
The candy bar?
They have food, don't they?
Dude, what I'm saying is this shuttle was not prepared to go up, and they're
she could have had it in her pocket.
I'm nitpicking. I realize, but
she could have had it in her pocket. They didn't. They were just doing a flight readiness.
I understand that, but if you're putting teenagers, kids, into this extremely expensive piece of technology, you're going to check them out and make sure they don't bring nothing on there that they can screw shit up with.
I guess,
like a candy bar.
Here we go. Morse code.
Blink, 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 blink.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's just a little light off to the side.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of important.
Yeah.
Although it is pretty obvious to see. Someone would have picked that up.
Well, yeah, the whole rest of the plot hinges on the fact that nobody looks over to that panel to see that. You know?
Well, I guess there's a lot of blinking lights out there.
Yeah.
So.
Jinx, help NASA.
Some pretty flimsy legs.
Mm-hmm. I'm surprised this this movie hasn't really been picked up by people still, you know? That it's still...
You think it hasn't?
Not really, you know. This DVD was released by Anchor Bay, you know, and it's known, but it's not... I think kids like it, you know, but it still hasn't been kind of widely accepted, you know?
I guess it's just hard for me to imagine that. I mean, it's so damn good.
I think we
see this. Is this the simulator or is this a set?
This has got.
Because come on, why would they do this in the simulator? This is really detailed shit.
That's a good question. You know, I don't know.
Now that's got to be the real shuttle, or no, that would be the simulator, I guess. Because they want to practice.
Well, yeah, they want to have a cargo.
In and out.
Yeah, they want to have a cargo bay.
Yeah. But, you know, they show, you know, where they just were in that little room. There was lockers and things like that in there. I can't believe the simulator would do that. But maybe they did. Maybe they need it. Maybe there's equipment in there that they want to test them on. I suppose that's logical. It just seems so authentic.
This is kind of a good shot, you know. I haven't thought about
nice little pan.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about this shot in a while, but it's a good pan, showing all their reactions and worried faces. It's good. I think it's nice that we show each person in their, you know, station, you know, and Rudy is at the cargo bay doors, and Tish, you know, working the Morse code switch, and Kevin and Catherine kind of the leaders, you know, sort of in their front seats. But as that will all come into play later. I like that. They set that up. So, you know, like I said, you know, this movie's, it's an ensemble, you know. It's not about the character of Andy, really.
No. But
they really try to play that, you know, her fascination on her face, and here we're going to see her as she looks out onto the sky, you know, and they treat her as if she were the star of the movie, when really this movie has no star, you know. It's a group thing.
I get what you're saying.
It just doesn't work, you know. I just think that's, you know, that's one of those things that opens up the movie, like that scene of her as a kid that doesn't really seem to belong. I mean, since it's an ensemble, you think, are they going to show all these characters as kids? You know? Kind of a thing. Don't you think?
I think you're overanalyzing it.
Maybe so. Yeah, this looks a little composited, but it still looks pretty good. For the time, you know. I mean, we did Dune not too long ago, and those compositing effects were pretty subpar, you know. And
by today's standards, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was, you know, like we said, like 85, 86, and Dune was what, like 83, 84?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's not too far off. And they obviously did a much better job with this film.
Well, you have to keep in mind also for this movie, every shot where you see something out those windows is fake.
Well, they could have had, you know, what's the word? I can't remember what they call it in set terms.
Yeah, like not a mat.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. They could,
a star field or something.
It's like a translite or something. Is that it?
Yeah,
like outside the windows. Yeah. See, this is what I always picture in my mind when they revert to Daedalus. This is kind of mesh of metal.
Yeah, that's what I remember too.
Like this stuff, you know. I'm like, oh yeah, it is incomplete, but here we have the oxygen tanks. Yeah, and I don't think it actually would work in reality. What they do with Max, you know, they put him in a suit. And to make the suit small, they tie a belt around it, you know, to make it his size. I don't know if that would work. Because, you know, the suit is pressurized, you know. It's like a balloon, you know. And it blows up like a balloon, you know. It expands out. So it kind of, you know, wrapping it up in that belt would keep it down, you know. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense for the movie. I guess I'm just nitpicking. It's just one of those things. Oh, yeah, that does look composited. That shot from out the window there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the more you look, the more you'll see it.
I also think it didn't help that, you know, was it about 7 years ago that we had that other shuttle disaster? I don't think that helped this movie either, unfortunately. And I found it really sad that a lot of people, at least at the time, the people I encountered, didn't acknowledge it at all.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really think about it. And I found that really sad. You know, like when Challenger went up, it was a big deal. It was a national tragedy. And when Columbia, when it disintegrated during re-entry, it's a tragedy. But I didn't feel that kind of gut punch, you know, around the country as before. I don't know. How did you feel about it?
Honestly, it was not something that affected me greatly. The Challenger was different. That one, like you said, that kind of gut punched everyone. And maybe that's the reason why Columbia had a lesser effect. It's almost like we had experienced that loss, and it was new and fresh. It had never happened before. So the next time it happened, it was less impactful. Not to downplay its tragedy, but yeah, just kind of, I guess, fell by the wayside.
There we go. See, Max coming out. His dream realized. He's in space. You know, I wasn't sure if those bits, you know, about him being a Star Wars fanatic, were going to be in the story, but they were. And it's kind of the same thing, you know, Kevin using that to his advantage to get him to, you know, keep going here in this moment.
Right.
Yeah. And like I said, you know, the movie, it's much stronger. So in the movie, it comes off a whole lot better. What is that he's looking at?
A nebula.
Is that what that's supposed to be?
I think
I've always wondered.
Something like that.
I've always wondered what that was because I could never figure it out.
Gaseous anomaly.
Okay. I thought, is there like a spaceship down there? Because that's what it looked like to me. I wasn't sure what that was supposed to be. Here we go. Yeah, use the Force, Luke. This is good. They keep bringing it back, you know, and this older brother, big brother kind of older brother, little brother thing. Yeah, and I think I think Kevin's, the character of Kevin is, and that of Catherine are the ones that really have the largest kind of character arcs, so to speak. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, this shot doesn't work so good, but pretty good. Yeah, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah, same thing is happening as happened in the simulator.
Mm-hmm.
The space station really is bigger than I thought.
Yeah, I know. I kind of feel stupid for saying that.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't. I like you said, I'd forgotten about those exterior shots. I'm here to rescue you. Yeah, you're right. Kate Capshaw really does look pretty good in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Was she already married to Spielberg at this point?
That I don't know.
Okay. What do you think of Tate Donovan? This was his starting debut, so to speak. The one thing I immediately think of from Tate Donovan is Love Potion number 9.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you go to when it comes to him?
Really, that's it. I mean, I know he was in Murder at 1600. He's been around. I'll catch him in things from time to time. He's still out there acting, of course. He did a number of guest shots on Friends when he was dating Jennifer Aniston. I like the guy. I wish I had seen him in more. He's got a certain quality to him that I like.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Memphis Belle, that was the other thing.
Yeah, Memphis Belle.
That I think of him in. Because, that was close to around the same time as Love Potion number 9. But
that would have been early 90s?
Memphis Belle, yeah. Along with Love Potion number 9, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if anybody remembers Love Potion number 9.
I think some people do.
It's just a silly movie. It's a movie based off of a song lyric, So it's kind of an oddity, but... So like I said, this is one of those moments where it's just reading it, there's like no tension whatsoever.
Right.
It's all in the music and in the the visuals and the reaction shots and everything.
Max.
We were hinted at this earlier. There's nothing to stop you unless you're activated upon by an outside force.
Yeah.
And here we're getting a demonstration of that. Max can't stop. As a kid, didn't you always think he was going to make it to the moon?
No, I didn't.
Well, when I was really little, I always thought, well, he's going to be on the moon in like an hour or two, so he'll be okay. Yeah. You can kind of see the matte lines. They showing up for you on some of those shots.
Well, yeah, like there when you see him against the moon, definitely.
Yeah. I was kind of wondered why his name was, why he went by Leaf and why he changed his name to Joaquin.
I don't know. I mean, I would assume Leaf is his given name, that his parents actually named him when he was born. I mean, you got Leaf, River. I think they have a sister named Rain.
Yeah, see, it makes sense. So why change it?
I don't know. I guess he got tired of being called Leaf.
I don't know. It seemed perfectly reasonable considering his brother was named River. So I'm not really sure why. And I always kind of enjoyed the relationship between these two, like he has Kevin kind of being his surrogate older brother. This is kind of his surrogate mother or big sister,
Yeah.
I always kind of like that. This is where Rudy is going to get his moment. And I always kind of thought, like, if it's so important that if they get the wrong connection that the oxygen tank will explode, wouldn't they have much easier instructions, you know? So
yeah,
to avoid such a thing, you know? She says right here, if you get the connection wrong, you'll be sitting in the middle of a fireball. So, you know, don't you think it would just say, okay, do this way, or
connect it this way, or die?
Yeah, exactly. Right. There is no blue next to green. Green. I meant yellow.
Why does it say Canada?
Oh, it does say that, didn't it? Did it? Is that what that said?
Yeah, it says Canada. It's even got a Canadian flag. I never noticed that before.
I didn't either.
There's got to be a reason.
Let's see. It's the wrong hose. This is one of those good character moments that the movie has, where Catherine, kind of being the take charge personality that she has, is going to be proven wrong. See, this is the thing she's confident in, you know, and Rudy's. That look on her face is good. He says, "Believe me, do it, Andy. It's the blue valve next to the yellow valve." You know, he knows his stuff because he's been studying this damn book since he got to camp.
Well, sure, he's coming into his own here, and it's,
well, like I said, this is his moment, you know, and you know, her confidence has been built upon, you know, partly because of Andy, you know, giving her. She even appoints her, you know, you're in charge until I get back, you know. So she's gotten a little, you know, big-headed, you know.
Yeah.
But she thinks she knows more than everybody else, at least in this regard.
Yeah, you know, she's trained to go on the shuttles, Andy is. So really, she shouldn't even have to ask which one. I mean, it's not like there's a gazillion in there.
Right there, that's a good shot.
These are all color-coded things.
She realized, and Rudy has that look.
Oh yeah, sure.
That's good. That's good. See, that's the kind of thing that you don't see on the page. It's good that I would see in my mind and realize, well, that's missing. They didn't write that down. I'm like, oh, that's something the actors brought, you know. It does say does that say Canada?
Yeah, it does, man. There's a flag with it too.
The maple leaf? I guess Canada built the cargo bay. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's good. She gave Max a little thanks. That was nice. Yeah, that sound always punches me. You know, when
she hits.
Yeah, but that moment, and also you know, that whole sound of the oxygen tank being you know, if I'm listening to the movie, that will I'll always have to turn it down because it always catches me off guard and startles me because it's so loud. What's happening?
Oh yeah, I know.
Like I said, try not to quote it.
It's just a line delivery that sticks with us.
Mm-hmm. I think it was a really good story idea, you know, to have Andy injured and to have the kids, you know, be responsible for bringing themselves down. Because, as Zach Bergstrom says, you notice we didn't say train you or whatever, because here at NASA, here at SpaceCamp, you are real astronauts. So, you know, the thought that, you know, they're being trained to actually fly the shuttle, you know, for real, you know, is kind of implanted in our mind early on. And you know, I think it was a wise choice for them to do that. See, I wonder where this... did they build this set, or was this...
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, because the exteriors are the real building. You know.
Like at the beginning when we see them?
Yeah, the NASA control launch center, is the real exteriors. Here we go. This is a really good moment. Yaw maneuver complete. He always has a cigarette in his mouth. Did you notice that?
No.
The actor, Admiral Pressman.
Terry O'Quinn?
Yeah, they keep cutting back, and he always has a cigarette hanging from his mouth.
There he is, lighting up again.
See? That's good to show him with a shadow. He has a 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
But this moment here, we can't hear it, but it's all in the music. Right? That's good. That's good. The hand. And
yeah.
Do something, Catherine. 2 seconds, and you realize she's frozen, and right there, Kevin makes the call, and this is where his character comes. He makes his arc because she froze. She couldn't make the tough call when she needed to make the call, and Kevin could.
Yeah, he acted.
She didn't.
And now he's fully taking. He's fully assumed the role of the leader.
Oh yeah. Even though he still doesn't really know how to work the shuttle, but
no, he doesn't. But you don't have to know how to fly the ship in order to be the captain.
Although he's punching buttons, like suddenly he knows what he's doing.
Well, he knows some of the stuff.
Yeah, we can assume that. But I really like that, and we're gonna have a follow up to that scene when Catherine's is gonna talk to Kevin about that, and the byplay, the dialogue they have, and it's there on the page, but a little different, not as heartfelt, not as emotion filled. That in the scene she mentions her mom, and she starts to cry, and I think works much better that way, as opposed to how it was written, just how it was written. Yeah, they're coming in on auto. That's the tension there. Which I don't think that's not a real thing, is it?
What's that?
Bringing them home on auto. I mean, what? Because if it were that simple,
there's so many variables.
It just doesn't. Seems a little.
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure at least by today's standards, the computer could be programmed to handle much of it, but obviously you'd be better off having a human hand at the stick. But I don't know if was possible in 1986. That does seem I guess it's just really a couple pre-programmed moves. You just tell the computer where you are, and it's all math. Well,
launch and re-entry are the most dangerous parts of any shuttle mission, and I don't know. I mean, they play it off the way they play it off in the movie. They just say, "Oh, put them on auto, bring them on home." It's like automatic pilots, like on a plane. Like,
yeah,
you flip a switch and the plane just does all the work. It's like, so you flip a switch and the shuttle's gonna come down by itself. I like this right here. She's wrapped around him. It's nice.
I was watching the previous shot where everyone was kind of leaving Kevin and Andy there, and I was looking at Kevin's feet, and they were shaking because he's obviously, in reality, he's physically kneeling, and he's supporting his own weight on his feet. Look at him. Look at his feet shaking.
Yeah, I can tell.
You can tell how they had to rake this shot so it looks, somewhat weightless, but he's probably been doing this for a few hours, and that's starting to hurt.
Yeah, I never really noticed that before, but you're right. Yeah, see, this is the scene I was talking about when Catherine's gonna confess. This is good. I mean, this is a good look on him. You know?
Yeah.
He's really thinking about it. And she has a good line where she says, in this scene, you know, my mom says, being boss and being bossy aren't the same thing. And, you know, I'm a good pilot, but I'm no commander. And it really works. And she said, you took responsibility for Andy. You know, somebody had to. Yeah,
I
right.
like that she's crying here.
Well, yeah, she said, good. You know, she said that about her mom. She says, I'm never going to see her again, am I? And now, oh, shit, they're really worried now. Maybe they won't make it out of this.
Well, now they're alone. You know, they don't have Andy now.
Well, they missed their window. You know, they turned off Otto. They missed the window back to Edwards. So now they know they don't have enough oxygen to make it to their next re-entry point. So they think they're dead until here. Rudy is coming up with the idea of White Plains. And now I'll always know White Plains is in the middle of New York, as he says. In case you're wondering, that train sound is not in the space shuttle, but
I live very close to a train track. My apologies.
Yeah, it's White Sands. They just had the idea for White Sands.
White Sands, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's close to Stallion's Gate, New Mexico, but nevertheless. Yeah, so they're gonna make a emergency
now, how did
landing.
they just do that shot?
Yeah, with
Rudy flipping his legs over. He did not look like he had any weight.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of these zero gravity things they pull off pretty well in this movie.
Yeah, other than the shots that are so clearly like blue screen in some way, I never questioned the weightlessness of them.
Did you notice the amount of people that are, nobody's on screen smoking right now, but the amount of people with cigarettes?
Honestly, I hadn't, but of course, that's all I'm going to see now.
Well, I've noticed like
hold on here. Here we have our
this is our
tremendous piece of score by John Williams here.
This is our favorite moment in the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
How can Jinx help NASA? Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful. He's a COMEINTROL.
The music is just kicking ass.
Command control. And this look, yeah, look at this.
Yeah.
Look of Tom Skerritt. He's like, what? Wait a second. Looks at the light. Looks back. Morse code. Damn it, they're talking to us. I'm sorry. It's I just know exactly.
What?
I just know exactly what is happening audio wise, even though I have my volume down because it's such a kick-ass scene. Request alternate landing White Sands? Columbia 82. Check it out. All right, Columbia 82. So I guess that was a real world event, although I don't think I've ever read about it. Because as Catherine said, the strip at Edwards was too wet. So they had to land at White Sands. I'm guessing that was a real life occurrence. Do you remember that?
Oh, no.
Okay. Eat me.
Why would everything be blinking?
Take away my charge card? NASA is talking. I don't know.
That kind of doesn't make any sense.
It's a visual thing, you know. They had one light this whole time in both places. Now all the lights are going off. Kind of makes sense in a story-wise conception, you know. See, now it doesn't make sense. Like, when all the lights stop, why do they need to keep all going? But they still just had that one light. I kind of like that moment they realize their math is bad.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Well, but I like that it shows Rudy's a smart kid. He's working the numbers.
Yeah, it's also like I said. Each character has their moment, but he's getting that kind of confidence boost that he didn't have because, as stated in the beginning, is he was talking to Kevin. I love science, but ask me if I'm any good at it. Not so hot, huh? It's like some things I just can't figure out. So, you can see him kind of coming into his own and getting confidence, which is nice. And this is good. I like the fact that Kevin uses the fact that he knows her personality right here to get her to learn the procedure. Where he says,
reverse psychology.
Yeah, he's like, I'll do it. He's like, so Tish, you ever read a book on how to fly one of these things? And because he knows that Catherine is competitive. It's like, okay, fine. Yeah, so that's good. The fact that he used that to his advantage. I like that. Nice little touch. We're going to be entering into the final sequence of the movie. And I think they did it pretty well. Considering how little was like really on the page, it wasn't a whole lot. Just a few brief dialogue exchanges, and then it says the shuttle lands, and that's it. And then we go into that epilogue that I was talking about.
Right.
Yeah, and imagine, how the scene would have felt if I said, earlier when she was in the multi-axis trainer, if we had seen her overcome the multi-axis trainer.
Yeah.
And this scene would have had so much less tension if we realized she knew how to get out of that mess. So I'm just really glad that wasn't in there. Yeah, they have to get the pitch right to get in. But as you can see, their pitch is never exactly right, but they still make it back to Earth anyway. Yeah, Kevin says they have to be at 30 degrees at least, and I know you can recall the image of the shuttle, the angle of degrees that they're at is never precisely at 30. They touch on it for like a second, and then it kind of bounces back or up or down. But they still make it back to Earth anyway. But that's a very important thing during re-entry, because if their angle isn't right, they will burn up. So the fact that they make back,
maybe there is a little room for play.
See, there you go. They got the pitch angle right there.
Certainly can't come in like that.
Nope. I always wondered, she says, what happens to the lights? Why did the lights go out? They never really addressed that. The trainer. See, remember the trainer.
That makes me think of Rocket Man. When he has to learn how to put the things in during in that exact same type of trainer.
When he's on the multi-axis
and then in the real shuttle, when it's all flipping just like this, the guy's like, remember the trainer? He's like, yeah, that worked out really well, didn't it? That was a total pooch screw.
Yeah, he had to put all the switches or whatever wires back in place.
Yeah.
As he was being spun around, yeah. Yeah, she recovered. Every character in here has their moment, like I said, but you gotta kind of wonder, like, they'd all be celebrities, but kind of always made me wonder, like, man, Catherine would really be like an international celebrity. It's like the teenager who landed the space shuttle, I don't know. If this was a real world occurrence, that's kind of how
for sure.
That she would be in the limelight as opposed to the others. Yeah, see, the angle of descent here is very important, and you're going to see the pitch, change quite a bit as they get to 30. You can see they're getting to 30, and then now it's going to go off. You see?
Yeah.
I think the shuttle would have disintegrated if they weren't able to maintain the right angle, because the angle the shuttle goes in, it's got to hit the atmosphere right, the heat shield. It's got to hit that right, because the heat shield is on the bottom of the space shuttle. So
sure. Well, you can see it's taking some punishment.
I'm just saying, so they have to get that angle right, and if they don't maintain it correctly, then the shuttle will burn up. And I didn't even realize it till now. The launch of the space shuttle, reflects Challenger, and this re-entry here reflects Columbia. It's eerie, because Columbia failed because of the heat shield. That's why it burned up. There was a hole. There was a hole in the heat shield. And it disintegrated on re-entry, just as they're afraid it's going to happen here. It disintegrated on re-entry. It's eerie the way these two moments, the two shuttle disasters. Sad. I kind of like this moment here we get of kind of quiet before we get the big piece of music by John Williams, and exploding of reaction. Here we have the music coming in, and we're gonna get the cheers and applause, from the crews at the launch facility. It was good.
It's a good send off.
Oh, definitely. And that's right here. No, we all did it. All their hands together. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a good moment. Dang right we did. She's like, don't forget me, fool.
Yeah. Here we go. Mission control. Yeah, we're going to get that. This is Atlantis.
Yeah.
See, that's good. See, the music comes in. Yeah. It's a great moment. And I just, because of John Williams is such a great composer, this scene always kind of gives me the tingle, up your spine kind of a moment, because if you watch or listen like we tend to do all the way through, and you make it to this moment in the movie when that applause comes up and the music comes, I just get that tingle up the spine where I'm like, I made it with these characters all the way to the end, and they made it home.
Oh yeah, it's cathartic.
Oh yeah, it's just one of my favorite movie moments. Really does it for me. It's a combination of just music mostly and sound effects, but this is obviously stock footage. Yeah, see, imagine this scene going into an epilogue and seeing a kid looking up at the sky.
Oh yeah, it's unnecessary. It's not earned, and
I think it definitely would have depleted the climax. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Kind of sucked away the tension. Here we go. The closing credits. Dun, 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 dun. See, filmed on location, SpaceCamp Huntsville, Alabama. I knew I wasn't imagining things. Terry O'Quinn, that was his name. Okay, well, that was SpaceCamp. Has it been a while since you've actually sat and watched it all the way through, Justin?
Yeah, I suppose it has been. I mean, I can't specifically remember, but it has to have been. I mean, I know it so well, so it's hard for me to actually specifically remember when I actually sat down and watched it from start to finish.
Scott Holcomb played Hideo Takamine. I'm sorry. Yeah, but this movie, it's one of my favorites. I mean, it was a childhood favorite, but it's one of those things that has really held up over the years. And I think this movie kind of has a reputation of kind of cheese. 80s cheese. But I never thought so. I think it holds up, and I think if you sit down a kid to watch it, they'd really like it and enjoy it. You think so?
I hope so. I'd be really disappointed if children of the right age were sitting down to watch this and were bored by it. That would be a real shame.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, though, that seems to be the case, at least with today's generation. But I think that pretty much wraps us up. We'll leave you off with the end title overture of Mr. Williams here. But it was fun looking back. I am Josh, and thank you for joining me once again, Justin. We're the Soulless Minions of Orthodoxy. Please visit us at soullessminions.libsyn.com or soullessminions.yuki.com, spelled Y-U-K-U, or Zarbin, the House of Commentaries. But this has been Josh, and I'm signing off. Thanks for listening.
And this is Justin. It's been a great, fun experience, and thank you also for listening. Good night.